Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we're going to be looking at Bridget. Now, Bridget's not a new card. Bridget sees an awful lot of play at the moment. We know what Bridget does. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a new card. It's a card that has essentially become broken over the last couple of years, and I mean that in the most literal way possible. So, Bridget came around in the Breakthrough expansion, which was released in November 2015. And it said that you could search your deck for free basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. Or you could search for one basic EX Pokemon and put it onto your bench. Now, the reason at the time was very simple indeed. We had a whole bunch of really powerful EX Pokemon, all of which were basic. And a card that allowed you to search for any free of your EX Pokemon and put them straight onto your bench would be overpowered. A deck like Darkrai being able to get them all out at once, or Mewtwo's swarming the field, would be silly and would be overpowered. And Bridget saw very little play, especially for EXs, because a lot of the time you would want something like a Shaman, but Shaman has a coming into play ability. When you put Shaman onto your bench, you can draw until you've got 6 cards in your hand. But if you take it straight from the deck onto the bench using a Bridget, then you lose the ability because you don't play it from your hand. So Bridget was this niche card that saw very, very little play because it was only really good on the first turn of the game, so you'd have to play 4 of it so that you drew into it on the first turn of the game, about half the time, but then you would have 3 in your deck and people played it, but it wasn't particularly good. And then Tapu Lele got released. And Tapu Lele's got the Wonder Tag ability, meaning that you can play a Tapu Lele from your hand, and then search for a Bridget, and then play the Bridget to get free basic Pokemon. And of course you can always use something like an Ultra Ball to search out the Tapu Lele to get the Bridget. Now at the moment, nothing about this seems particularly worrying. But EXs aren't really a problem anymore. Most EXs have either been rotated out or dropped by the wayside. Other than the odd thing like Volcanion EX in Fire decks, EXs are very much leaving the format. But they've been replaced by GXs. Now, GXs are their usual stage. Decidueye is a stage 2 GX. Espeon is a stage 1 GX. But something like a Drampa or a Darkrai GX, they are basic Pokemon, so they become basic GXs. But I would argue that they are just as powerful as something like a Volcanion EX or a Darkrai EX. They're certainly as widely played. We've just had the release of Buzzwole GX in Crimson Invasion, and this is a really good example to use because Buzzwole GX has the same, essentially, attack as Landorus EX. Now, you couldn't use Bridget to search for free Landorus EXs, but you can use Bridget to search for free Buzzwole GXs. And that to me seems a little bit weird. Bridget very much seems to be a card which is designed to try and help evolution decks, little decks. You've got your evolving decks, think something like Greninja. And then you've got your big powerful basic decks, think something like Buzzwole. And the evolution decks often need a bit of help. That's where Bridget comes in, although it really wouldn't be played in something like Greninja, but it would be played in something like Gardevoir to grab some routes. And you're not getting an unfair advantage because you still need to evolve into Kirlia or use a rare candy to get a Gardevoir, etc. But using a Bridget to just go and get free Buzzwole, free Drampa, free Turtonator, or Ho-Oh, etc. on the first turn of the game is frankly ludicrous. Now, how did this happen? It's very simple. As I said, Bridget was released in Breakthrough, which was released on November 2015. Sun and Moon introduced the GXs, which was released in February 2017, 15 months later. There were essentially 4 sets between Breakthrough and Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon came 5 sets after Breakthrough. So at the time Bridget was being made and released, GXs weren't even being thought of. So this categorization of Bridget that you can search for one basic EX or 3 basic Pokemon and put them on your bench made perfect sense. But nowadays it's borderline broken when you've got GXs and you combine it with something like Tapu Lele. And certainly we've seen a lot of things like this which have gone the other way. Think Choice Band. Choice Band does 30 more damage to an EX or a GX because, of course, we've got both nowadays. They're both very powerful. The non-GX Alolan Ninetales from Burning Shadows and its Luminous Barrier ability blocks all effects of attacks, including damage, from Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX. But Bridget is sitting here still allowing us to use GXs, and you've got to believe that this is not the way it was intended. So what can we do about this? And for newer players, the answer is easy. Well, for older players, it's easy as well, but I'm assuming you guys are aware of this. It is what we call an Errata. An Errata is where Pokemon makes a declaration, and essentially then, even though that's not what the card actually says when you pick it up, we all know that that's how it's supposed to be read. Take, for instance, Pokemon Catcher. Pokemon Catcher used to have the same effect as a Lysander. You grab one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and put it into the active. It was ludicrously powerful, and after a while, Pokemon said, you know what? This is a little bit silly, so we're going to add a coin flip into it. And eventually Pokemon did reprint Pokemon Catcher with the coin flip, but for a while we all knew Pokemon Catcher had a coin flip, even though all the Pokemon Catcher cards didn't actually say that they needed a coin flip. It essentially became Pokemon Reversal. This happened with Rare Candy. Rare Candy used to allow you to evolve into a Stage 1 or a Stage 2, and Rare Candy used to be able to be used the turn you put a Pokemon down. Now you can't use it until the Pokemon's been down a turn, and it only goes from a basic to a Stage 2. It's what we call an Errata. The effect changes, and at some point a new version of the card gets printed to tell us, but in the short term we all know what it does. Ladies and gentlemen, Bridget needs an Errata in the worst way, because I don't see why I couldn't get free Landorus, but I can get free Buzzwole. I couldn't get free Darkrai, but I can get 2 Turtonator and a Ho-Oh. This is not how it was intended, and it's actually about to get even sillier, because you may have noticed in the last couple days I've done videos about the new Prism Star Pokemon. We've seen Solgaleo and we've seen Lunala, and I'm not going to go into details in this video because I've done videos about them. I'll pop links in the description, go check them out, but needless to say they are ludicrously good. And they're supposed to be ludicrously good. They are, not unlike EXs, basic Pokemon regardless of what stage they're supposed to be. Solgaleo and Lunala are Stage 2 Pokemon, and yet the Prism Star Pokemon are basics. But there are 2 special rules which really acknowledge how good these cards are supposed to be. Firstly, you can only have one of each Prism Star Pokemon in your deck. Now, you can have multiple Prism Star Pokemon, you can have a Solgaleo and a Lunala, but you can only have one of each of them. Added to that, when they are KO'd, they do not go into the discard pile like regular Pokemon, ready to be brought back with a rescue stretcher, for instance. They go straight into the Lost Zone, the, as I like to call it, second discard pile, from which they can never be recovered. They are gone for the game. Hence the term Lost Zone. These are supposed to be ridiculously good Pokemon. And yet you can search 3 of them out on turn 1 using your Bridget. And people will. This will become an incredibly widely used tactic. You will see. We're getting 6 Prism Star Pokemon in Ultra Prism, the first set in which these cards are going to be featured, which is coming out in February. And if they continue to be as good as Solgaleo and Lunala are, you are going to see player after player going Ultra Ball for a Tapu Lele for a Bridget, Bridget for 3 Prism Star Pokemon. They're all basics, they're all super powerful, and it doesn't really matter if they go to the Lost Zone when they're knocked out, if you've got 7, 8, 9 different great ones in your deck, and Bridget is getting dumb. Now, I know Bridget is going to be rotated in the next rotation. Spoiler alert, the next rotation is going to be Sun and Moon on. I feel extremely confident about this prediction. But that still gives us from February through August where we're going to have this ridiculous ruling. It's silly enough that Bridget can go and get GXs, and we've been saying this for a while now. This is clearly not what Bridget was designed to do. But with the introduction of Prism Star Pokemon, Bridget just gets utterly, ludicrously ridiculous, and it needs an errata because it just really gives an advantage to these Prism Star Pokemon, which is not intended. How can you have a situation where they've got the Lost Zone mechanic because they're so good, and it's only one of each per deck because they're so good, but you can go and search out 3 of them with Bridget, but if you want to get a Darkrai EX, you can only have 1. As with all of these videos, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to need your opinion about this. Tell me if I'm being a little bit upset for no reason, or tell me if you think I have a point. Let me know if you think Bridget's getting a little bit silly and needs an errata. Go nuts! Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel and get some of the now weekly bonus pods, you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.